with us, we have former WCW and TNA referee Jamie Tucker. Jamie, how are you doing today?
Fantastic, guys.
So we've got a list of questions we wanted to ask you, so if you don't mind, let's go ahead and get started.
Absolutely.
Now, growing up, were you a wrestling fan? If so, who'd you look up to?
Yeah, I was a big wrestling fan. I looked up to Flair, Rhodes, the Horsemen, because I grew up in the Carolinas in the mid-Atlantic area. And, but, you know, I always wanted to be, this is the honest truth, I always wanted to be a referee when I was growing up. I always thought it was kind of cool, you know, and Tommy Young was one of the main referees in the mid-Atlantic area, and I looked up to him as an official. But as in workers, it was Flair, Rhodes, Magnum TA, the Garvins, anybody that made a name for themselves in the Crockett era. It was like, wow, it was so amazing, you know, to watch that product.
Now, would you say that getting into the wrestling industry was your first career choice? If not, what was?
It was always wrestling because I actually started going to Nikita Koloff had a gym up in Concord, North Carolina. I started working out, I guess it was like 12 years old or something, and I got to meet a lot of the guys that came in during that 91, 92 time period. Stopped by the gym when they were in town. And it was a job, I guess they call them jobbers back in the day, which is enhancement workers now. His name was Chuck Coates, and he worked at the gym. And how I actually got started in the business was Chuck would take me to like all the local WCW tapings in the area with him. I was like a 13-year-old kid being backstage, you know, meeting all these guys that I'd look up to, like Sting and everybody at that point. You know, it was really cool. You know, I met Vader and even Terry Taylor, which actually came a part of my career later on. But anyway, it was just so cool being backstage, meeting all these guys. And eventually I went to independent shows with him, and it was a local group ran by George South and Gary Sabaw, the Italian Stallion from, I don't know if you heard of them from the enhancement days of Crockett's. And yeah. I worked, and I was a 15-year-old kid. And one night they meet the referee and they said, "Hey kid, you want to work?" And I was a little shy, you know, still at that point. And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I'll work." That's exactly my answer is, "Yeah, I guess I'll work." And they threw me a referee shirt and threw me to the Lions Den. I was in there at 15 years old, not knowing anything about the business.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've reffed a lot of matches. I got to ask you, who are some of the most underrated wrestlers you've been in the ring with?
Underrated. Wow. I know the Pope's getting a push right now, but he's still very, in my opinion, very underrated still. That's just my opinion. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. But he's a super nice guy, really nice. Underrated. A lot of names come to mind, actually. It's just Alan Funk. I love Alan Funk. I think Alan Funk didn't get his full potential like he could have, you know. It was in the dying days of WCW. We were all there, and Alan Funk didn't get the correct push, you know, in my opinion, that he could have delivered more for the product. But, you know, it's when you come to that point where it's so many guys on a roster and there's so much TV time and they're building so many angles around so many guys, a lot of guys get lost in the shuffle and their full potential isn't actually shown, and that hurts them in the long run, and that ends up being releases or lost in the shuffle, and bam, you're going, you know, you're going the next day. Like the old saying is, you're here today, going tomorrow, and I can attest to that several times in my career. So, but them two come to mind, and quite a few, many more, you know, that over the years that I've met, the guys didn't get their just due, you know, and they fell between the cracks, and it's sad, you know.
Now, my co-host Andrew Carlick has a few questions, so Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, Jamie. Now, you know, adversely, who would you feel are some of the most overrated wrestlers that you've been in the ring with?
Overrated?
Yeah.
Wow. Let me think here. Well, you know, I'm not one to really have to bite my tongue or anything, so I'm not going to even answer. I hate not to answer that one, but, you know, I'm still young and still in a career, so I don't, some of these guys I might talk about are probably still there on the rosters. So.
Okay. Now, what are some of what would you say is the most memorable moment that you've been in the ring for?
Memorable moment. I actually have a few, and I'll go over all of them real briefly, if you don't mind. One would be my first time and only time to be in the ring with the Nature Boy. It was a house show in Omaha, Nebraska. It was like 2000 April, I think it was, and it was actually a sold-out house show, and I got to get in the ring with Flair, and he worked his match with one of the New Blood guys, and it was just phenomenal. And it was the only time I actually got to work with him. That's one moment I'll never ever forget because, like I said, he was one of the guys I always grew up in the Charlotte area that I loved as a child. Another one would be to actually be in a WWE ring with a tryout match. I had 2 tryouts in Charlotte and Roanoke back in '07 that a lot of people didn't know, but it actually landed me a job in FCW for 2008, and it ultimately didn't work out down there. But and that's why I'm in Tampa now. But that was really cool because you grow up and you grow up in the South, and I got to work for WCW, and then now it was only one company left that we all watched growing up that meant a lot, and it was WWE, and I actually got to be in a WWE ring and in front of a Raw show and a SmackDown taping, and it was really cool, them 2 moments. But just any time being in front of being out there on television, even with TNA and any of them, just being out there living your dream, man, it's just phenomenal. You're out there and the crowd's going crazy. And even for me, as a referee, like I said, I only wanted to be a referee growing up. I never really wanted to be a worker, and that's all I've ever done since I was 15. I'm 32 now, and it's just an unbelievable feeling getting in the ring and having people go crazy or a title change or whatever, and you just get in the moment too, and and you get in that role. You be official, and you're exciting, So that's the main thing, just being able to live the dream and be able to say, hey, I've done this or done that.
Yeah, definitely. Now, how did you come to work for WCW?
WCW, how that came about was I was working in Cornelia, Georgia for NWA Wildside, which at the point was NCW Wildside. At that point, they just started their television with like America One, 102 stations or whatever, and they were showing in Atlanta and Nashville and everywhere. And I was like the second or third taping down there in Georgia, and Bert Prentice, I don't know if that name comes to, who he is right off, but he's a Nashville promoter, and he had Music City Wrestling at the time. It might have been NWA Worldwide by this point, but anyway, he came down to a show, and I got put in the match with the Colorado Kid, and I think the other guy was like Chris Michaels or something of Nashville indie scene or whatever. And they did a match, and I worked the television match, and I came back to the curtain, and Bert Prentice actually pulls me over the side and goes, "Kid, I want you in Nashville next week for my shows." He said, "I need you to come out. We got TV, we got this, we got that." And he said, "I guarantee in 6 months you'll have a job in this, with WWE, at the time WWF or WCW, because this was like September of '99. And I'm like, well, you hear so many things that people say, hey, you'll be here, you'll be there, or promises, and you're like, well, I'll go to Nashville, see what happens. And I go to Nashville for it was a total period of like 4 or 5 months. But within the first month, Terry Taylor comes in, and Terry works the show. He works Colorado Kid on the main at the Municipal Auditorium. And as soon as I walk in, Bert's already put me over, and Terry's like, "You're Jamie Tucker." I'm like, "Yeah." It was pretty cool. This guy walked up to me and said, "Hey, you're Jamie Tucker." And because Bert put me over to him, and I worked some matches, and as the time went by, over the months, I worked with Terry in Wildside, and worked with Terry and again back in Nashville, and I walked into a Nitro, I think it was the end of '99. I walked into Nitro, and I ran into Charles Robinson because we were friends from the indie scene before he made it as well. And he's like, "Terry, somebody who's wanting to see you." And Terry turns around, "Hey, Jamie, what's up, man?" And Terry offers me a job right there on the spot and says, "Do you want a job?" And of course, I was like, "Yeah." I'm like 21 years old, still a kid basically, but I'm like, "Yeah, I want a job." And about a month later, I started on the road with WCW. It was just unbelievable, man. It was just everything roller coastered really quick within that 6 month span. From Wildside and working Nashville dates, and Nashville was a great time for me. I loved the whole time period there. It was just it was like running like a territory, and it was fun. And then you get the WCW gig. It was just unbelievable, going from making, pretty much peanuts to making unbelievable money. WCW was, it is true to some facts. It was like an ATM machine at times. You were making good money. So, but it was fun, man. It was unbelievable, and it was a nice ride. And I enjoyed every bit of that. But that's how I got into WCW.
Okay, now, we've heard several interesting stories about the locker room atmosphere in the late days of WCW. Do you have any memories of the locker room in those days?
Yeah. At times, you'd be like, what's going on? I know you probably heard stories or whatnot on the net, or people actually told you that the stories are true, that at times it felt like you didn't know what was going on, things would be switched on you. I actually had an instance where I was out in the ring on a Nitro, and I can't remember where it was at, but it was supposed to be like one half of Chronic. I don't even know which one it was now. It was Adams or Clark was supposed to work Reno. And then next thing I know, as soon as the guys hit the ring, they tell me right there, when I'm out there on television, they're like, Jamie, this is going to be a mugging. As soon as they take him out, ring the bell. There was no match then. It was just right there, spur of the moment, live Nitro. But a lot of things were changed on the spur of the moment, but I mean, that's really not bad, I guess, but it can be hectic. You're out there and people's watching you at home, millions of people, and then you got a live crowd there, and you're like, okay, we'll go with this. But luckily you got to be able to know how to when something happens at that point, you got to be able to jump and hey, I can do this and not screw this up. But yeah, the backstage atmosphere though was a little confusing at times. But I look at it like this. A lot of guys bitch, complain, but what they need to look at is, can you go anywhere else, live your dream, make good money, and and just have that fun, have a vacation 365 days a year. You're on the road, you're home, you don't have to work another job 9 to 5. Everybody complains, oh, this place is bad, but realistically, was it? You're making good money, you're having a time of your life, the camaraderie with the guys, most of the time was great. Have a few beers or whatnot, it's just great. So, but the atmosphere was weird.
Okay, now who are some of the biggest locker room ribbers in WCW?
I heard stories about who did things, but I really don't know because no one ever actually played a prank on me there, which is kind of cool. Nick Patrick tried to do one time. It was real funny. Billy Kidman was sitting in a stall in the bathroom in the locker room. I believe it was like Norfolk, Virginia, and he starts throwing rolls of toilet paper over at Kidman because he thinks it's me sitting there, I guess, doing my business, And the next thing you know, Kidman comes out and goes, who in the hell's throwing toilet paper at me? And Nick's going like, oh, I thought James the kid over there. And I'm sitting in another room getting dressed for the live broadcast that night. So that was pretty funny that he's trying to play a prank on me, but it backfired and he did it to Kidman. But just little pranks, One time, I like, a lot of people don't like Pinzer. I know you've heard stories of Pinzer. I don't know if you have or not, but I had no problem with nobody. And I like Pinzer. But me and Charles Robinson played a prank on Pinzer one night where he's standing there at the hotel desk, and me and Charles are looking at each other, and Charles like, grab his briefcase. I grabbed his briefcase, take his briefcase, and hide it behind like a cylinder, I guess what you call it, one of them wall posts. And Pinzer turns around and goes, he panics. Pinzer just panics. And he goes crazy, and then finally he finds it, and he knows we did it. And he's like, MFers, what are you doing, blah, blah. And it was really funny, though, because we played a prank on him, but nothing really bad, And I know we did a house show out in South Dakota, and Brian Knobs was working Canyon in a hardcore match. And Knobs brings out a trash can full of gimmicks. Well, in them gimmicks was Pinzer's briefcase. I don't know what it was with that briefcase, but everybody made a rib on it, I guess. And he throws the whole trash can in the ring. And then Pinzer's like, Jamie, give me that briefcase. My glasses are in there. I go to give it to him, because I'm like, I don't know. Maybe his glasses, he don't want them broke. And then Knobs is like, Red, he calls me Red. If you give him that, I'll whip your ass. And that was just real funny right there. Because Knobs is really cool as well. I hang out with Knobs down here at the school, the Nastyville school, help train and referee stuff for him, and that's a couple of things that happened. But overall, as a ribbing, I really don't know who the worst guy was. I heard stuff was happening where they did the old trick where they got the guy's bag and hanged it over top the lighting system of the ring, and the guy's like, "Where's my gear?" type thing. But you know, just simple pranks, nothing real major where it'd be like hazing or anything like that.
Right, right. Now, what were your thoughts of Eric Bischoff at that point?
Eric Bischoff. You know, at that point in the stage, I came in around the era where Russo was already in there doing the writing, and Bischoff wasn't there when I actually came in the first of 2000. He didn't come back into like that I believe that spring, if I can actually remember correctly. But when he came back in, they did start the writing again, because in WCW all the referees were supposed to go to the meetings, you know, and we'd all go to the meetings, we get our spreadsheets or whatever, and we sit down and go over the lineup for the shows. And you know, realistically, Eric was always cordial. You know, he never the way I see people is the way you treat me. If you treat me good, I have nothing bad to say about you. And Eric never did come across as an a-hole or nothing like that to me. I've heard stories, but once again, you know, I don't go by what people say about the person. I go by the way the person treats me. But you know, he was always nice and spoke but you know, he was there throughout the rest of the time period, even through the time where towards the last few months where it's supposed to be the big 360 turnaround, and I believe it was Fusion or something was supposed to buy it, and rumors and all that, but you know, I mean, overall, I mean, I actually refereed the Eric Bischoff Terry Funk hardcore match in Atlanta, where Big Vito comes in and takes out Funk and the Mama Luke that was at the time, and then Eric Bischoff actually beats Terry Funk. But you know, I mean, overall, I mean, I can't really say anything bad about the guy. You know, if I had a bad experience with him, I'm the type of guy that'd be very open and be like, yeah, you know, he was this and that. But being that he's never crossed me and I've never crossed him, I really can't say anything negative about the guy.
Okay, now in March 2001, when WWE bought WCW, why weren't you used by WWE at that time?
Okay.
Did you ever get any reasoning as to why you weren't being used? You didn't get used by WWE, or why you didn't get picked up?
Well, the whole story towards the end there was the 1st of March of that year, like 3 weeks before the actual WCW did their last, I guess they call it the spring breakout show, or whatever it was, at the Panama. I don't even know what the show was that year, because I wasn't even at the last Nitro. But 3 weeks before, they started giving out like massive cuts, you know. And within 1 week, almost every female on that roster, Nitro Girl or a valet, was reportedly cut. I was cut the first week of March. Mark Johnson, Slick, which is in TNA now, he was cut the same week as me. It was crazy. They were just cutting people. And 3 weeks later was actually the last straw, of course, and McMahon and WWE took that over. But as soon as I was ultimately told by Terry Taylor the first week of March, you're not coming back to work next week, you know, and I even asked, I said, what's the deal? And at that point, I even asked him in WCW, what's the deal? Why am I getting cut? He's like, well, I have no real reason. We're just cutting people, and you're one of the guys that had to be cut. So I'm like, okay, well, and that's all I can do. And then I actually called the WWF at the time and asked, I can't remember who I was talking to. I think it was like Tom Pritchard and Kevin Kelly at that point. And I was like, you know, I'd like to come on board up there, and said, you know, I come from WCW, obviously, I just got released, and yada, yada, yada. And Terry actually said, if you need a recommendation, you got it from me, 100%, you know, if I went other routes in the industry. And it just, nothing came out of it, you know. And then came around June when there was talk about all the WCW people getting brought up, you know, well, not everybody, but certain people. I had actually inquired, and I had talked with Charles Robinson in late June, and I guarantee you the first week of July when they started showing the invasion on that TV, WWE TV that summer, Charles went to Seattle, I think it was, and he signed his contract, and Billy Silverman was one of them, Nick Patrick, and my name was never even brought up and mentioned about, hey, let's bring this kid in or bring this guy in, and I just fell to the wayside, and that's that, you know. In 2001, I was actually living in I moved to Nashville, Tennessee that summer, actually, and worked for Burt Prentice in the office and ran the territory out there for 6 months. But that's what I did with my career from that point, because there was nothing there for me being brought up, so I knew I had to move on somewhere. And that was my best offer. You know, he's like, hey, come out here, I'll pay you this amount of dollars a week, and we run this promotion. And it worked out for 6 months, and then the money was starting to dry up, and I ended up back in the independent scene in the Carolinas and trying to make $1 again, you know. But nothing ever came of it. So I really don't know.
Now, a few minutes ago, you were speaking about you working with Florida Championship Wrestling for a little while. That's what you're doing down in Tampa. Now,
yeah.
Can you talk about how that started and what kind of things you did while you were in FCW and basically the experience there?
Yeah, basically, what happened was in September of '07, I was talking to Charles Robinson. Once again, I brought his name up. We're friends and all, and I was like, hey, man, I really want an opportunity with you guys, and what's the best step to do here? What do I need to do to get that? Because that's like I call, you know, the management up all the time, and I never really get the answer. He said, well, you have to go through developmental now. I'm like, well, I said, I'm open to whatever. And I said, I'll do that. And so I get some numbers to FCW, call them up, and say, hey, you know, I want to come down and work some of your shows. I want an opportunity to get a spot on the main roster or either on your roster. I just want an opportunity in this business again. And they're like, hey, come down, which was Steve Kern. He said, come down, we'll look at you. So I went down early October of that year, got looked at, got called up like 2 weeks later, come to Charlotte and Roanoke because I live in the area, and give you 2 nights of tryouts, and after that, we'll give you a 100% answer. I was hired like a week later, I think it was, maybe 2 weeks, and they're like, you're moving to, I initially was told you're moving to Louisville, but obviously we all know that they cut ties with that, and I ended up being in Tampa though instead. But that's how I got to Tampa. But the everyday, at that point, the building wasn't even finished that the FCW is in. We had no plumbing. We had to go next door to use the bathroom. No plumbing at all. So basically, we come in around 10, a little bit before 10, get dressed up by 10, get in the rings at 10, stretch out. We go over some bumps or whatever and rolls. The guys would. I wouldn't do too much of that. I mean, I've all learned that over the years, but, you know, it's primarily for them. And then a lot of days we do matches all day just in front of each other, and we do a mock crowd and we cheer for each other, and the referees would do a match, alternate. And we do that, or we'd either just go over the matches for our next local gig, which at that point they were only running like every Tuesday at a local establishment here called Bourbon Street up in a small town up the road here from Tampa, and then maybe one spot show every other Saturday. So it was maybe 6 shows a month. The rest of the time you were in that school for 6-7 hours a day, just stretching and doing mock shows and having the creative team come down and meet with everybody. John Laurinaitis would be in there every week, one day or every other week. And then Jim Ross would come in. Different people would come in, watch the shows. But that's pretty much the everyday routine at developmental. At least it was at that point. I know now they're building 100% fixed, and they're doing a lot more shows now in the area. So I'm pretty sure they're doing less in building stuff and more learning. Because realistically, we all know making this business, you know, back in the day, you'd be on the indies all the time. You wouldn't have the developmental system. And being in that ring makes guys develop more than being in a building all day, you know, doing stretching and all that. So it's actually going to benefit everybody in the long run, being that they're running like more shows now.
Yeah, I was actually at that Roanoke show. I live in Richmond. Now, how did you come to work for TNA?
I came to work for TNA because, how I came about that was the very day I got I was told that you're not coming back to FCW, WWE, whatever. I got directly and contacted Terry Taylor and said, hey, listen, I want to come to work. And the first thing was asked was, when's your non-compete up? Because, you know, WWE signs everybody to contracts that give like 90-day non-compete, even the developmental guys. I'm like, well, it's up this date or what, such, whatever it was. And he's like, well, stay in touch. We'll probably have something for you by then. And, you know, he acted interested. But I knew him prior to the WCW days 7-8 years earlier, whatever it was. But anyway, it probably took about a good 6-7 months, and that's when I finally landed in TNA, and I finally got there, and they just brought me in the mix, no tryout or nothing. Same way WCW, they just, hey, you got a job, come into work, and I went straight to work on a pay-per-view on a Sunday, and I was on the road probably 8 days that week because I did the house show loop, and it was just great, man. It was just fun being back on the road and being with the guys. But that's how I landed in TNA, and TNA's been a fun time. People can say what they want, but TNA is a fun place, and it's an hour and 10 minutes from my house. I mean, you can't beat that.
Right. So, what are your thoughts on the current product in TNA?
The current product, it's to be honest with you, anybody that's watched it this year can tell it's changed a lot from January, and it's continued to change a lot. With different people coming in, different talent coming in, different direction, storylines being changed here left and right. But if we can go back before the current product, we go back to the first year. When they changed to the 4-sided ring and all that, it's all fine. We're all accustomed to the traditional wrestling ring. But, TNA made an identity out of that ring for, 6 years or something? Then just dropped it all at once, That was the only thing. I was puzzled thinking that wouldn't work, It's like, hey, is that really going to work? Because you made that identity of that 6-sided ring. But it's changed from that point all the way to, you got ECW's guys being pushed with the angle, and which is nothing wrong with that. There's got to be change every day in the business. But as I see the product now, I really don't know which way they're going with it because, like I said, it's changed so much through this year. I couldn't even make a remark about how I feel about it because I could see it changing within the next month, even drastically again. I'm a traditionalist. I'm a less Smash Mouth TV guy. I'm more of a wrestling guy personally, but we all know everything evolves in life, and the business has as well. So, but the product's watchable by all means. But as in, is there things they could do differently? Absolutely. There's things WWE could do differently. There's things the whole business could do differently. But it just changed so much, man. It's hard to keep up with stuff, and the business just keeps changing. Storylines keep changing, and guys are healed this week and face the next, and I still keep up with it because I'm currently not employed by them. I guess I was written out of the story. I don't know if you've seen the broadcast, but I took the Samoan, Muscle Buster from Joe after the RVD match him and RVD had in July, and then we were all making jokes. You're written out on TV till next spring, and it was just a joke at that point. But sure enough, a little bit later, it was, right now we're not going to utilize your services because of budgetary reasons.
Yeah, I'm personally not a big fan of the current product. I was a big fan about 5 years ago, but I think the wrestling business, generally speaking, goes in those kind of lulls every so often.
Right. I mean, but like I said, there's things that I'm not even a fan of, because a lot of things don't make sense to me. But if you say something about that, there'll be somebody in the brass ring that'll be like, well, does it really have to make sense? And it's like, well, maybe. So, I don't know.
Now, how do you feel that the locker room has changed since Hulk Hogan came into the company?
The locker room, the only time I've been there, I was there the first 3 months of the year, and then I was been off and on up into July off and on. But the locker room itself, you can see people taking their clicks, taking their sides, but honestly, I think that's always happened in this business, where guys are real defensive and they got their own buddy system. And but I mean, as of people being paranoid, maybe. To be honest with you, when all this change is going down, I'd make little snide remarks. I wonder if I'm here next week. Not because I'm negative, but I know when there's change in this business, with corporate or whatever, there's going to be change with the talent. Just joking around here and there, and of course, ultimately that did happen. But I think most guys, like the core guys that are there, they're very, very good guys. AJ, and Kaz, and all them guys. They're just really good down to earth guys, and they're passionate about what they do. And I believe everybody's still happy. I mean, I couldn't say right now as we speak today, being that the company's changed the last couple of months. But during the time I was there, everybody seemed to be, pretty much upbeat. It's a relaxed atmosphere. It's not crazy and nutty around there. It's a good atmosphere, at least during the time I was there.
Now, in April, you were actually released from TNA, and then you briefly came back, and then you were written off with the Samoa Joe incident you were talking about. Can you talk about the circumstances behind that?
But just like the thing that happened in July, the same reason was budget. We're doing budget cut. And the only thing that comes to mind when they say budget cut to me is that you're trying to watch your money. Which, every business has a bottom dollar system they got to go through to watch that line of money. But then you're looking at a guy that they tell you you've done a great job for us, but we're cutting. You're one of the cuts. But then you're thinking, well, if I've done such a great job, and ultimately I live an hour away, you don't have to pay for airfare, and Lord knows I was probably one of the least paid referees on the roster. I mean, is it really a budgetary? You know what I'm saying? It makes no sense. I'm not saying I wasn't a budgetary cut because that's what I've been told, and I believe that's what it is because Terry's been pretty much open, throughout my career. He's hired me a few times and whatnot. I've been fired a few times, but the thing is, if you're really watching that bottom dollar, wouldn't you think just a little bit closer about how you spent that money, and because I believe in my work and I know that I belong there just like any other wrestler on that roster, but, budgetary cut, but yet the guy can drive an hour and saves you $600-700 on an airfare, whatever it is. That point doesn't make any sense. I have no real feeling towards them because I'm not saying I wouldn't want to go back because I do. I love this business. I want to be anywhere in this business because that's what I want to do. But that there just didn't make too much sense to me.
Right. Like, I knew it was budgetary cuts because I think you were released around the same time as, like, Christopher Daniels and Consequences Creed, but at the same time, you came back pretty quickly after that. So, yeah. Like, in that regard, to me, that just never made a whole lot of sense.
It didn't because, I don't think it was, because the whole thing was told to me during that time, and I'll be very open about it. I have nothing to hide. Is when they called me back, when I got in contact and said, hey, I want opportunities, anything there? And they're like, yeah, we've contacted you. We got this going on, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, great. And they're like, but we don't know what it means. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Well, we really don't know what it means. And I'm like, okay, I'll come back to work next week, but you really don't know where we go from here. And I went back to work, and then a few weeks went by, I missed the next tape, and then they brought me back in the next one after that, which was like the end of June, 1st of July. And then they put me in the match, taking the big bump from Joe, and, you don't think about that, because referees get bumped all the time, and they're back on TV the next week, and, but we're all making jokes, yeah, they're going to write you out, and, it's just a joke, but there was no promises made, I'll be honest, there were no promises made about the future, but you would think they're bringing you back, that there's something there, but, obviously there wasn't, and, business got to do what they got to do, but, like I said, I'd go back tomorrow if they called. I'm very open to go to any major wrestling company. I'm very open to go back to because that's what I want to do. That's my passion. That's me. I love the referee. Just like these guys that go in there and they have these great matches and they're really excited about it. And I get excited about what I do, and I love the business, and I had no heat with nobody, and I'm pretty sure they have no heat with me. So. It's just, it is what it is at the end of the day, life takes you up and down, but, I know how the ball bounces in this business. I've been fired and released and brought back, but you just got to know in your mind, you've been there once, you're good enough to go back again. You've been there twice, you're good enough to go back again. And you just got to keep telling yourself, and that's the main thing. You got to have confidence in this business or you'll be consumed up really quickly.
Right. Now, my co-host JT Evans has a few more questions, so you still there, JT?
Yeah, what are some of the differences between WCW and TNA locker rooms?
question. I was thinking that would come up. The difference is, I believe there's a lot less bickering at times and arguing. During the time I was there, it was like the last year and a half, WCW. At times it was like guys would be on the edge and they'd be upset about the direction they were going with their character and whatnot and all that. But, pretty much during my time at TNA, it was a little less hectic, and it's really relaxed there. At least unless it's changed within the last couple of months. It was really relaxed. It was a great place to go to work. You didn't mind going to work. At least I didn't. But I'm a very open-minded guy, and I know myself I wouldn't want to do anything else other than that. And that's why, maybe I look at things different, though. Someone else you might talk to, be like, hey, that place is the crap. But for me, it's be all good because, I'm just a happy-go-lucky guy, man. I go to work, and if I have a job I love, which is the wrestling business, you're going to have passion from me, and that's what you get.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've interviewed a lot of referees, and a lot of them would say that the most important thing about being a referee is being the invisible third person. What is the best advice you could give to somebody who wanted to be a referee?
Best advice you want to be a referee? That is a very true statement. You don't want to be involved too overly involved in the match. You want to be there at key moments, at the times the guys need you. Times they don't need you. They need to know you're there, but they don't need to know you're there. Does that make sense? Like, you got to remind them, they got a good ref in there, but they don't need to know that you're right there on them and you're going to be in the way or not be at the right place at the right moment. But, it's a lot of things. I can go all day. I probably got a notebook full of stuff I've written down because I go down, like I said earlier, down the Ron Knob School and help out. And he had a couple guys down there referee, and I'd write down the things they did wrong, and at least in my opinion, and things they need to do differently. But everything counts. Consistency on your count, just being consistent, and everything you do as a referee means the most. And being in the ring, but not being in the ring. I know it sounds kind of weird, but that's got to be there too. You got to be there. They got to know you're there, but you're not trying to outshine the guy. In other words. It's their match. They get over, not the referee. The referee's not there to get over. It's just the guys are. The referee's main job is to just be in there and just be there, and be good at what he does. But it's not to get over and, hey, look at me. I'm like the Rock, or I'm really over like your world champion RVD or whatever. That's not the referee's job. The referee's job is to do his job and get over. And there's lots of pet peeves, man, that a lot of referees, they raise the guy's hand, they raise their other arm, the opposite arm, their arm too, right? So it looks like they're giving their ovation. Why is the referee raising his other arm? The only arm should raise on the referee is the arm that picks up the guy's hand, because you didn't win nothing, I got a lot of pet peeves. We could go all day about that.
Yeah, I've actually noticed that at shows where the referee tries to get a bigger pop than the others, and that's never a good thing. I gotta ask you. You've been in TNA, WCW, and you're in FCW. You've got to have some really good road stories, man. You got a road story you can share?
Probably one of the funniest ones. Probably from. Let's see here. We had one in WCW where, I hope you don't kill me for this, but me and Charles Robinson's at we stopped at a gas station, and it was somewhere in the Midwest, I think. I think it was Omaha, maybe Nebraska, somewhere up in there. And the lady wouldn't let him in to use the bathroom. So he comes back, and he just pees all over the gas pump. And then we just take off like that.
Hey, when you gotta pee, you gotta pee.
You got to, man. You wouldn't let him in there. Everything else was closed. What's he going to do, I mean, that's pretty funny. I never expect that out of him because, I don't know if you ever talked to Charles or met him. He's the nicest guy, man, and the most down-to-earth guy you could ever meet. That was like, wow, that's something I might do. But yeah, he's a great guy. I can't say nothing negative about him, but that was pretty funny. I know one time me and, do you know Wes Adams?
Yeah.
WWE referee SmackDown for a while. we were down here in FCW, and we went to this to the nudie club here, strip club, and we went to one. We got a little too much, in it. We would go to this other one. It was really shady. I guess at this point I knew where we were going because I was like a little out of it. We go in this place, and we actually sit down, and this place is so backwoods shady here in Tampa. You'd be scared to death to go in there. Like the paint is like crumbling from the wall, and the bathroom stinks. I don't know if you remember. I know you remember the movie that Hogan made, Zeus, back in the day. The bathroom in that bar was real smelly and all over the floor and all that. The bathrooms in this like that. So I sit down in the middle of the strip club, and next thing I know, horrendous looking women in your wife would come over, and I'd be like, man, we gotta leave. I said, this isn't right. And finally, one of the guys that was in developmental with us was an ex-NFL player, and he's been released since then too. But anyway, we were in there, and he cared about cold beer. He could care less if there were hot women in there, which there wasn't. And he could care less if there was hot women or not. So he's sitting there going, hey, I want a cold beer. And being that it's an all-nudie club, they don't sell alcohol beverages. So he gets in an argument with the bouncer guy. And the guy's like, if we have to leave, he's like, well, we want our money back. Because the cover charge is like $10 or $15 a piece. And we want our money back, dude. Give us our money back. So finally, we had to drag him out of there because we were basically getting a cop call on us and all that. So that was pretty funny. That was a pretty story. So Wes got us in.
That's funny. Now, you brought up, the Brian Knobbs School. Of course, former WWE star Kazarni Sinbodi is also helping out there. But who are some of the kids that you see have the most potential that are training there?
Who's the guys training there?
Well, yeah, that have the most potential in your eyes.
Well, he's got one guy down there that's training down there. That's the guys that they're actually training, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one kid down here. His name's, I don't know his name, but his name's Frank. But he's got the most potential. He's actually a lawyer as well. He's got the most potential out of all of them. I think he'll go places in it. But Knobbs has a good facility. He's in a 24-hour fitness center, and it's just really fun. Knobbs is a hoot, man. We go afterwards, have a few beers at the local restaurant next door, and Knobbs is fun.
Now I'm going to kick it back over to Andrew. So Andrew, go ahead, man.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Hey, Andrew, you there?
So yeah, I'm here. I just had a technical issue here. Now, Jamie, a lot of guys in the TNA locker room. We're also in the WCW locker room. How do you, guys like Kevin Nash and so forth? How do you feel they've changed over the years? Do you feel they're still an asset to the business?
When we talk about Nash, I think Nash is, personally, yes. Nash is a businessman, and he'll I'm sure he'll let you know that. And but yeah, I think Kevin can bring a lot. He's, in my opinion, he's still good on the mic, but if Kevin, this is my opinion, I don't know what other people think, but if Kevin's used the right way, he could make still money for people, But then again, he's one of the only few guys, that's been around for a while that can do that probably, There's a lot of guys probably losing their steam at this point in the game, but I'm a Kevin Nash fan, I think he's got something to offer. He still looks good, and he's even stated, I think, that he thinks he's in the best shape he's been in. So, but yeah, I think Kevin's a good asset to be around, and even if he's not in the ring, I would think that he'd be a good mind to have around,
Right. Yeah. Now, Dixie Carter has taken a lot of criticism over the last couple of years based on the way that TNA's run and things like that. What are your thoughts on Dixie Carter?
Honestly, Dixie, I've never had like a super long conversation with her. They've been all brief, but she's a really good, genuine person. when I got this last time, when I was actually told I wasn't coming back, I didn't actually get a chance to thank too many people for the past opportunity I had. And I always seem to do that, no matter where I've been. I always thank them for the time I've had there. Not just because, hey, I want another job. Of course I do, but just because I think it's the right thing to do. You know, they put food on your table at times, and they give you your opportunity to do your dream if that's what you want to do. But anyway, I think she's a nice woman. She's genuine. She seems real, you know, when you talk to her. And I didn't have her personal number. I didn't want to call it the office, so I actually emailed her during this last time I saw her. I wouldn't come back, and I thanked her for the time there, and in the future, you know, I'd be interested in coming back, and yada yada yada, you know. And she actually answered back probably within the hour by email, and said I always did a good job, and you know, don't see nothing but in the future maybe bringing me back. It's not a problem, you know. So I mean, she's a nice person. You know, good people run that place, you know, at least from what I've seen. And you know, I'm not going to knock her, you know. And she's got other people doing a lot of the business in for her, you know, writing wise and business wise, and watching the budget, I guess, and all that. But yeah, she generally she's a good person.
What about Jeff Jarrett? When you first got to TNA, Jeff Jarrett was still a large part of it, and it seems like he's kind of tailed off and is not as in control as he once was. What are your thoughts on Jeff Jarrett?
Right. I actually came into TNA right when he had a little scandal or something happen.
Right.
I really don't know too much about it. I don't get into all that. But and then you know, he wasn't very much around until like the end of the year, I think it was, the end of last year. But you know, I think Jeff, you know, he's done a lot to get this company going. Of course, we all know that. And you know, thank God he did, because you know there's always got to be competition in the world. It's just like, you know, you turn on the television. Do you want to see WWE only? Obviously not. You want to see something else. So TNA's that alternative. Just like if you go down the street and you see a McDonald's, you don't want to see 3 McDonald's and no other burger joint to go to, because heck, you might want a Whopper one day. You know, I think it's good that he got to do that, and you know, it's good for the business. And Jeff, he's always been cordial to me and nice, and you know, I worked with him in Atlanta during the last days of WCW and all that, and you know, once again, he's a guy that's never crossed me and never made me go, hey, you know, you a-hole, you know, I got heat with you, and I don't like you type person, because I go by the way people talk to me and treated me, and you know, he's another person in the business that I'm not going to go off the record and go, hey, you know, I don't like him, because I really couldn't say that. I mean, you know, so, but yeah, I mean, it's good what he's done for the business, and it's good that TNA's grown the way it has. And, you know, honestly, everyone that's in this business needs to hope and pray that TNA just continues to grow, because the business needs it. Not just to put food on the table for other guys in the business, but for them to show their craft, and for them to actually go out there and live their dream. You got these young guys, these young guys coming up, it's got potential. If there's not 2 companies, where are they going to go? You know, so it's a wonderful thing that TNA's lasted like they have, and I really hope and pray they continue to last, because WWE needs the competition regardless if they want to admit it or not. You know, so, and then you know, of course, there's Ring of Honor. I don't really know too much about Ring of Honor. It's really Northeast promotion, I guess. I've only seen a couple of their matches and stuff, but you know, they're a true wrestling company. But yeah, it's a blessing that TNA's worked out.
Yeah, we're actually going to have Jerry Jarrett on our show this coming Wednesday. Now, you just spoke about Ring of Honor, and TNA earlier this year, they tried to go head-to-head with WWE and actually statistically hurt themselves in the ratings in the process. And do you feel that was a mistake, and what do you think TNA can do to kind of set themselves apart from WWE and Ring of Honor?
Yeah, basically what happened there was, honestly, in my opinion, it was too fast to move for 2 reasons. One, you're going live. I think it was every other week, and that just brings up production costs even more too. And then secondly, you're going Monday nights, and then what was it? I think their time slot on Mondays were 8, I believe.
Right.
I think they're going 1 hour head to head with WWE, and what was mistaken there? It was a bad move. It was too soon if they ever go that route. But realistically, you don't need to go that route because Thursday night was put for TNA back on that television for a few years. Why not leave it Thursday night? Why not have Thursday night being TNA night? And that's exactly what they went back to. But during the whole time, I was like, Thursday night was good for me, even as a fan, even if I wasn't a part of it. Thursday night was good, But I wouldn't even have tried to move personally from a business standpoint because Thursday night works. At least in my opinion, it's been working for them. And all the companies worry about is just grow, not worry about going head-to-head with WWE because as long as they stay in the ranks of being a competition to the WWE, that's all that needs to matter. As long as you're one of the big dogs, that's all that matters, But I think it was too soon of a move, in my opinion. And Thursday night it's been well, and I think that's where they should stay. And it's the night I know TNA by. The last few years, even before I was hired there last year, I would look at it like this. I'd be like, hey, TNA's on Thursdays. You'd have it drenched in your mind, because even when I was part of the FCW, I turned on the TNA product, and you'd always watch your competition, Even if you're hoping to get the WWE's roster or whatever, you always watch the competition. So I always know, hey, Thursday night when I'm at home, I'm watching TNA. And then on Monday night, when we weren't doing a local show around here, I'd be watching, of course, our product to keep up with it at the time. So Thursday works for them. That's basically all it comes down to. Thursday works. Leave it where it's at. Just be happy that you're considered the number 2 company and move forward, because it's a great company. And so Thursday. I think that's great, man.
Right, and I actually did some studying on the ratings during the whole era, and I think what happened was their first Monday night show, the one on January 4th, was the highest rated show they ever had. So they kind of thought that was helping, but it really, in the long run, it wound up hurting them. Right. And I thought maybe if they go against one of the secondary shows of WWE as opposed to the flagship show, that might have helped them a little bit more so far as getting an audience.
Absolutely.
But it just didn't work out, and I've looked at the ratings since then, and they're not even back to where they were prior to them, going live. Actually, prior to Hulk Hogan showing up.
Right. The whole thing comes down to this as well. The Monday night thing was 3 hours, I believe, in January,
right.
And a lot of people probably thought, like, hey, it's the big wrestling special. What if it was just big wrestling specials on Mondays occasionally, like a pay-per-view type show? I mean, that might be something to look at, but being every Monday, it's just really hard because the way I look at WWE is their brand name's been around for so friggin' long. In some instances, if you think about it, they could put a bowl of poop in the ring, brand it the right way, strap a belt around it, and probably market it. It's just the way it is, But their brand name's been around, just like Von Daily Circus. They come to town, you already know about it. And it's all about branding the name as well as having the right product.
Right. Now, is there anything else that you want to promote to our listeners, Jamie?
Yeah, basically, just to let everyone know that I am going to start having more to do with I'm going back down to Brian Knobs School again, helping out down there. I know he's doing tryouts right now. I'm going to promote Knobs a little bit. He's doing tryouts today, which they're already over by now probably, and the next 2 to 3 Saturdays, like I guess the 18th and 25th, and then the first Saturday of October he's doing tryouts for his school, new enrollments. And I'm going to go down there during the week some, helping out again. And most of mine is will be teaching, of course, with guys that want to be referees, and that. So I will be having more of a role of a referee type school, but helping with a little bit of psychology, things I picked up over the years that I can help even some workers out doing that. And then I'll also be doing taking indie gigs as we speak. I actually got some stuff coming up in November in Tennessee and different areas, so look out for them. I'll have that on my Facebook and MySpace page where I'm going to be at. But for promoters out there that want to want to bring me in, if they do, I have an email address to reach me at refjamiet@hotmail.com. That's refjamiet@hotmail.com. And, I'm open to going wherever you need me to be. Just, I love the business, and I want to continue to be in it. I've been in it for 17 years. I'm still young, 32 years old. I got a lot to offer. And knock on wood, thank the Lord above, I'm still pretty much injury-free. I've had a few small ones, but, I'm good to go. So, I'm working on some other projects on the side that I really don't want to go in detail yet because they ain't set in stone. I'm not one to blow the horn until it actually happens. But working on some stuff, and I will be, in my opinion, I'll be back on television before you know it somewhere. So just to live the dream, man. Continue living as long as I can.
So, okay, do you want to plug your Facebook, MySpace, Twitter if you have one, and if Brian Nubbs has a site?
Yeah, Brian Nubbs, I believe it's Nastyville. I'm really not sure about the site itself. He's on Facebook as well. Brian is. His school's actually on Facebook. So they can look that up, probably by a Google search or something. I hate to be that way, but I don't have that right on hand. But I'm also on Twitter at Ref Jamie Tucker. You can reach me there as well. I forgot about that. You can reach me on Twitter, Facebook, or MySpace under, Jamie Tucker. So just hit me up, and I'm ready to go. And if you don't hit me up there, you can, like I said, email me. I also take, if the fans want to email me questions on the email address as well, I'm very open to that. I keep in contact with some fans over the years from WCW days, and still, we talk about that occasionally. And it's just fun, man, talking about old times and talking about the future and just meeting people. I like meeting people. I'm a people person, and I'm all for it, So just promoters, people in general, whatever, I'm willing to answer any questions. Anytime, man.
Well, all right, Jamie. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the air, and best of luck to you in the future. Absolutely,
yeah. I mean, like I said, some things I'm working on, and some things are moving up, and just want everybody to look out and be waiting. And absolutely, thank you for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, well, you're welcome to come back anytime, and again, we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.